Welcome to Art Jargon with the San Antonio Museum of Art. Today, we will be exploring the word provenance. Provenance generally means origin or source, but in museums, provenance specifically means the history of ownership, as in who owned the works of art and how did they end up here in the museum. These questions are important. They help us better understand the significance of objects in our collection, make sure that objects changed ownership appropriately in the past, and provenance provides transparency about our collection history with the public. Provenance research varies depending on which collection area we are researching. Today, we are going to focus on an object in Sam's collection from the ancient Mediterranean. Ideally, we'd like to trace the history of an object from the time it was excavated to the present day. To do this, we have to work backwards. Let's take a look at this Greek amphora, or jar, depicting Heracles, Deianira, and Nessos. On this side of the amphora, Heracles is slaying the centaur Nessos. The other side shows a wheeling chariot. So where does this come from? Well, buckle in because this is going to be a long ride. We know that the San Antonio Museum Association bought this amphora from Sotheby's in 1974. We even have the invoice in our files and a letter exchange between us and a curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. We told the curator that this is the beginning of our collection, presumably the collection of Greek antiquities. So this purchase was a big deal. So where did Sotheby's get it from? Well, in Sotheby's 1974 catalog, we saw that the object belonged to the estate of the late Sir Stephen Courtauld. How did Sir Stephen Courtauld get the object? This pot was published in SAMA's own catalog of the museum's Greek vase collection in 1995. The author included Stephen Courtauld's name under provenance, as well as ex-collection Rogers. We figured out that he got that information from an earlier publication of the vase by the renowned scholar Sir John Beazley, who listed a Samuel Rogers in his Index of Greek Vase Collectors. Thanks to Google and archive.org, we found a list of Samuel Rogers vases in a catalog of the very celebrated collection of works of art, the property of Samuel Rogers, Esquire, deceased. It said the collection was to be sold at auction by Christie's and Manson in 1856. We searched that catalog for our amphora. After browsing several images and descriptions of vases with images of Heracles, boom, we found it in lot 348. It wasn't illustrated, but the description and dimensions match. So we know it was in Rogers' possession, but how did he get it? And how does this tell us where Sir Stephen Courtauld got the amphora? Courtauld wasn't born until 1883, so he couldn't have bought it at the 1856 auction. We looked at photos of Stephen Courtauld's home, Eltham Palace, in England, and then we found something. We tweeted at Eltham Palace for an email address, and a curator sent us the 1939 inventory of the palace's contents. They also shared with us a 1934 portrait of the Courtaulds in their London home, and voila! There was our amphora, hanging out on a credenza in the painting. We cross-referenced the inventory list and found this description. A similar amphora, the panels painted figures in a quadriga and centaur and other figures, circa 550 BC, 15 3/4, and ebonized wood stand, from the collection of Samuel Rogers, William Sharp, and Mary C. Sharp. It also states that it was from Bocking Place. Well, there's our friend Samuel Rogers again. But who were William and Mary C. Sharp? The Eltham Palace curator told us that Sir Stephen Courtauld's mother's maiden name was Sharp, and that Bocking Place was the Courtauld family home near Essex. Where does Samuel Rogers fit into this story? We did some research on Ancestry.com. We traced family trees and found that William Sharp was Samuel's nephew, and Mary C. Sharp was his daughter. And Mary C. Sharp's nephew is, lo and behold, Sir Stephen Courtauld. Essentially, this Heracles amphora probably didn't sell at Samuel Rogers' 1856 auction, and instead stayed in the family. So, here's a reconstructed history of this jar. So this doesn't answer all of our questions, because we still don't know how Samuel Rogers got this amphora, and we don't know exactly how it was passed down in Rogers' family. But we have lots of evidence that allows us to better understand the amphora's provenance. Provenance research is important because in some cases, when we can go all the way back to the beginning, it can help establish the authenticity of an object, so we aren't showing fake art at the museum. But it's also important to make sure it wasn't stolen either, which is an important conversation in museums right now.